Hey everybody, this is Dustin, your specialist. So this is going to be part 2 of a video I just did about these corners back here. This corner and this corner, just to recap real quick on them. The insert molding is shrunk up. It has not been sealed correctly over the top. So when I say it should have been sealed over the whole top of this area, if you listen to the sound of my fingers, I'm going to tap here where it's going to sound like wood. And I'm going to tap over here where it's going to sound like wet wood. So it's distinctively, this is all getting wet underneath here. Sealants are separated, but typically the water gets in past the molding, hits the screws, can either run down the wall or will bleed over here and will eventually dry rot this whole area. It's doing the exact same thing over here. So the sealants are disturbed. There's cracks and separations because it's all dried out. And it's actually buckling the wood a little bit here. You can feel it and see it. And then till you get back here is when the wood doesn't sound so bad, but the insert moldings are both bad on both that and the side, along the whole edge here, as you can see that. As we look further on the roof ACs look like the gaskets have never been changed. I don't think the ACs have ever been serviced, so we're going to recommend that to them. The attic vents are all sun damaged, so you can see how the plastic's all brittle and worn away. When we're up here, we're looking at the vents. So here's another tattletale. Whenever you can see a hard, distinct line like that, right? Typically, what happens is it'll separate, and then it will glue itself back together, and it'll make a line like my fingers, like the gap, showing you that it kind of re-adhered itself. You can see where they didn't put sealant very far over, so that's going to be leaking there. Typically when we reseal them, we don't do what I refer to this as camel humping. They'll come up and they'll do like little camel humps, and that allows areas for water to catch. I'm not a big fan of that. I normally would run a bead of sealant straight across the back and then come back out here and then go back like I'm welding and seal that whole area all the way around. You can see that there's mold and stuff growing up on here on the sealants itself. So this one happens to be a fantastic fan. I'd recommend that they clean that up and either overlay it or reseal it completely. It's the same on the back. They got 3 plumbing vents. Same thing, the sealants all need to be cleaned. You got barnacle growing on top of the roof. This attic fan, it's the same way. You can see that it's just brittle and sun's been hitting it. So there's products that we recommend to put on these roofs. So you can put on the AC cover, the attic vents, the fantastic fans, skylights, regular vents, TV antennas. It's called 303. It's a UV plastic protectant chemical. So think of it like Pledge for your wood furniture, right? You just get up here, wipe it on anything that's plastic. You can also put it on the rubber roof itself or TPO roof. I know they tell you that you don't have to do anything to it, but I've been doing this for 25 years now, and I can't tell you how often units come in and the roofs are dried out, cracked or split open or sun damaged. And it's because of the soaps, the weather, you name it, just different stuff that people apply to them, different places they take them to get them cleaned. So you can see how clean that roof is compared to this roof. Just an example. You can see like there's another roof that's clean. But anyways, back to it. The sealants on the Skylight are all separated. Again, they didn't go far enough here with the sealant to go over. Put on too thin. Same thing with the camel humps, right? I come up here and I check to see if anything's loose. But I would have sealed this. I would run a line straight across, and then I would have came out here and ran a line straight across, and then come like a circling, like you're welding, and thicken that whole area up all the way. I don't like doing the again, I call it camel humping. I don't like doing that because now it makes all those different pockets to hold water and dust and dirt in. So Skylight, I don't see any visible cracks around the perimeter, but I do see water getting underneath of it, which is from the crack. And same thing back here. You can see that the dark shadow is water that's underneath there, and again, that's from the crack of the sealant. So King Jack TV antenna, we used to put these on all the time. You know, those ones have a push button deal to amplify it, and then you have to turn them. I would recommend to replace that with a new wine guard, and that way you don't have to do anything. It's a complete Omni 360. Same thing with this Coleman AC. There's all kinds of debris underneath here. It needs to be cleaned. There's some stuff floating around inside. Again, the gaskets, I recommend to change those out every 5 years. Sometimes the owner's manuals tell you that, sometimes they don't. But that's just a 14 by 14 hole, same size as a vent hole. And those gaskets are about, I don't know, we'll say an inch thick. Well, these ACs vary, and I'm gonna say they get as light as like 58 pounds to like 70, 85 pounds. So when that weight is compressed on that seal, which is just a seal just clamped down with the 4 bolts in the corners, it compresses that gasket and makes it watertight. Well, as that thing gets hot and cold, and vibration and all that, these ACs tend to get loose and then they'll leak. And when we peel them off and there's all kinds of dust and dirt and stuff underneath of them, it's just, it'll collect and then it'll cause water to get down inside there. And then if you see in other pictures, articles, videos, we get a lot of ACs in, and the whole roof outer area around them is all dry rotted. And sometimes you don't even see it in the inside of the coach. So you think, oh, well, why didn't I see water leaking inside? Because it's not like a bottle of water where you dropped it over and boom, here's water. It goes in, absorbs into the outer sheeting, absorbs into the insulation, and then makes its way through slowly over time. So keep an eye on those. Make sure you're checking the retorque. Make sure you're removing the covers, blowing them all out, cleaning them. Make sure you're UV treating the covers, because this one's all faded. Like all the stuff on the roof's all faded and sun dried. This particular coach is a Keystone, and it is an Avalanche. And I'm not real impressed how the manufacturer did this particular roof. You can see every one of the seams, and as you step on them, you can see them all like flex and move. So see how they're flexing and moving. You can see the distinct line. There's also a bunch of debris when they did it. There's a bunch of debris underneath the roof surface where they didn't clean it up too well. They did the double molding up front, which is nice, but they did the same thing. They put insert moldings in these top corners, which those are going to need to be removed because they're already shrunk up and cracking. So you can see the crack on it, and then you can see the crack in the sealants. And then same thing with the sides. The side sealants is all separated, the side insert molding. Hear how I'm tapping on that, and you can hear that noise. That's my tattletale that it's loose. And so if I pull that off and showed you, it's going to be filled with dust and dirt, allowing water to get in, which can cause damage to the sidewalls. It can cause damage to the roof. I've had just insert moldings leak and come back in and rot the roof a foot inward on the roof just because of the side insert moldings. So those insert moldings act like a water deflector, and that's helped to deflect the water away from that rail and that track and keeping it from going down into the screw holes and keeping it from building up. So every 2 to 3 years, depending on how you're storing it, whether it's inside or outside, if it's covered or not, the weather, soaps you use, sun, climate, check them and replace them as needed. Sealants up here too are all starting to dry out and crack. When you start seeing like the shrinkage where it's getting like dry cracked skin, that's just a sign. Talk a lot about keeping the sealants clean as possible. So I don't know the actual chemical name, but you can see where all these were bubbles and they've all cracked up and split everywhere. The self-leveling sealant, whether it be Alpha or Dicor or Camco or any of the other brands that are out there, they have a small amount of, solvents in them. And those solvents basically cause it to adhere to the surface by etching against it if it's clean. And then as that sealant dries up and cures, there's oils in it to let it expand and contract, and also to make like a thermal property. So people come in and say, oh, just a Turn-A-Bond tape over the whole thing. Well, when you Turn-A-Bond tape on it, there's no thermal properties to that Turn-A-Bond tape. So if you just covered this, it now doesn't have that thermal resistance. So talk about, condensation. There's air and stuff that come in and out of those moldings that, try to fight itself from the inside to the outside through the coach. And then same thing, again, the sealants on this side, they're all cracked and separated. Insert moldings need to get replaced. Side seams need to get done. The awning fabric, you know, I'm looking at the awning fabric now, and you can see the stitching. See where the white stitching is there and it's not. And you can see the stitching on the seams. So the stitching on the seams as well. So sooner or later, this gentleman's going to need a new awning fabric, because it's not only shrunken, but it's losing the seam. So once it starts doing that, it's going to start tearing. And so again, simple 303, put a little bit on a towel, rub it on in the closed position. That'll keep that, you know, it's like putting on a water repellent. Water repellent, suntan lotion, keeps it up. The other thing I noticed on this roof, and it's kind of a bigger concern for me, I mean, it's just something to keep an eye on as time goes. When the factory cut the roof, they didn't go back and they didn't sand down this hard edge. And so I keep seeing all these sharp corners. And at first, as I continue to go down, I thought they like clipped like tree branches and like nicked it all the way down. But it's actually, the nicks are actually debris from the wood when they cut it at the factory. So it kind of gets sporadic and it gets worse, and from the naked eye, you know, you can see like these little dimples. And so, you know, same thing, there's little dimples on that material, and those ones stick out a little bit worse. So again, I thought it was like a tree damage where it skipped along the edge and cut it. So that could leak at some point and cause damage. Another thing is you can see like all the footprints from when I step, and that's also another tattletale of overgluing. So when they overglue the roofs, usually you'll see like indentations or foot marks, stuff like that. So they put too much glue on it. This one's not as bad as others that I've looked at, but when you overglue the roof, that glue never dries. It stays sticky, almost like a honey, for its life. You know, I mean, we've pulled apart roofs that were 20 plus years old, and it's still sticky, where to the point where if you walk on the roof, the wood surface, with your tennis shoe will stick, and when you go to pull your foot, it'll rip your foot right out of the tennis shoe. So, you know, so I mean, that's a good thing. Again, it's made to expand and contract with temperatures, but that's where you see all these different little waves and lines and stuff in there. So anyways, I'm going to finish up on this video. I got some more stuff to look at on this unit, but I recommend a full roof reseal, insert moldings, front cap, side seams, the whole body. They're all shrunk up. You know, could we go back and wipe this all down and go over the top of it? Yeah, we could, but that's just going to be a band-aid. My real recommendation would be to start fresh, strip it all off, remove it, put new on it. Anytime we reseal something, we ask that you come back in within 90 days. We want to make sure that whatever product we put on there adhered to the surface, that it's dry, that doesn't have any bubbles or gaps or anything shrunk up, because it does, you know, shrink after it's drying when it's curing. So anyways, they did a good job sealing it originally, but except for, like I said, the camel humps, you know. So, but make sure you're staying up on your roof maintenance. You know, this AC, again, the covers need to come off, they need to get blown out, the gaskets need to get checked or replaced, because it's probably more than 5 years old. You need to get up here a little bit more often and clean it. When you're coming up and cleaning the roof, I talked about the 303, you know, or any of the, we use a lot of protectile products made by Thetford. So any of the products that you use that's a UV treatment, don't just apply it to the rubber surface. You know, you say TPO, rubber roof, you know, PVC, whatever brand of roof that you have, right? It's just like me, I'm bald. I don't know if you see me in that or not. My cell phone doesn't let me flip it around like that, but if I go out too long in the sun, I'm gonna get sunburned, and that's basically what's happening to this. So the UV chemicals will protect the roof surface, all these plastics from drying out and cracking, stuff from discoloring. You can use that on anything, you know, the slide out toppers, the awning fabrics, the skylights, you know, to protect it. So like, the example is, see how nice and dark that AC cover is? And that's the same kind of cover as this one. The only thing I just noticed is that AC cover, see there's two mounting bolts up front? The ones in the back are missing. Shame, shame, shame. They forgot to put them in. So you never know what you find, you know. So here's this AC cover, and you see 1, 2, 3, 4. And over there, what do you see? Same AC cover, you only see 2, and the front's the same way. So they forgot to put the screws in the back of the cover, you know. So I'll have to do another video on that, let everybody know. But so a few times I've seen that. There's another one over there with 4 screws in it, another one over there with 4 screws in it, another one over there with 4 screws in it, you know, all the same brand. So it's not something that, to my knowledge, that's changed, because there's nothing that they've done different. I mean, they put a couple screws in the bottom, but where this one doesn't have any screws in the bottom, so maybe that's what they did. But still, you know, I'm sure the holes are still up top there. They just didn't put them in. So, alrighty. Well, stay tuned for more. Thanks so much for watching. And if you haven't joined any of our Facebook groups, you know, because we're a repair shop, we work on every kind of unit. Whether it be a cheap unit that you don't even want to walk into, to some stuff that comes in that's, you know, $200,000-$300,000. Every once in a while we'll get like a Newell or Prevost or something that's up in the $1 million or $2 million range. And those people usually don't want us to put videos on there, because they're usually like custom. They'll find out which one it was. But anyways, make sure that you join those groups. We're putting on information on here to not only show you like what to look for, so it's free RV education, showing you how to fix it, the products that we link in there, what we're using to fix it. We'll show you like how to fix it. And then it also serves as like an update of like, hey, the unit's in the shop. Here's what we found. Here's what we're doing, you know. So anyway, stay tuned for more, and hope you follow us. Thanks so much for watching.